Hello everyone, welcome back to A1 Politics and Civics. Today we're going to be talking about the hypothetical of what if all states followed Maine and Nebraska's electoral procedures for the Electoral College. For those of you who do not know, Nebraska and Maine both split their votes for the Electoral College in the exact same way. The winner of the state's popular vote gets two at-large electors, and then the rest of the electors for the state are divided based on the state's congressional district results. This is possible because, as we'll cover in a future video on the Electoral College, each state gets a minimum of 3 electoral votes. If we go over to the map here, you can see Wyoming has 3, Vermont has 3. Because you get 1 per U.S. senator, each state gets 2 senators. So that's guys like Ted Cruz and Chuck Schumer. And then the amount of seats that the state has in the U.S. House. Representatives include Nancy Pelosi, Byron Donalds, Marjorie Taylor Greene, people like that. So less populated states like Wyoming and Delaware and Vermont, they only have 3 electoral votes, whereas states like Texas and California have 40 and 54 electoral votes, respectively, because they are so much more populous. So Nebraska and Maine do split their electoral votes, as you can see here. And so Nebraska and Maine split their electoral votes. The Smithsonian Magazine, right over here, says that Nebraska adopted it to, make them a little bit more competitive, attract the presidential candidates to the state. Maine began using that system in 1972 and Nebraska in 1992. So even today, this system draws controversy. Over here in the 270 to win map, yeah, this is the right one. You can see that Nebraska's 2nd district is the tipping point for this election. It was decided by 2% in favor of Trump in 2016, 6.5% in favor of Biden in 2020. You can see over here, even though the people of the district did elect Don Bacon as their House representative, a Republican at that federal level, they still managed to split their vote and give the district to Biden. So in this map, you can see that neither candidate has reached the 270 to win mark, and this is the tipping point. If the Democratic candidate wins the district, they win the presidency. That'll hit them at 270. If the Republican candidate wins the district, the Electoral College is tied. So if you go ahead and give that right there, it's 269 to 269. Due to this scenario, this possibility, some Republicans have been calling to scrap this system. You can see over here that Governor Jim Pillen of Nebraska and their state senator have been trying to rally votes and get this system changed to a winner-take-all. Unfortunately for them, Maine has said that their state's legislature, this lady right here, who is the House Majority Leader. Democrats have the majority in Maine's state House and legislature. So they would do whatever Nebraska does, they would enact identical legislation. So even if we go back to the map here, Nebraska changed that so that Trump would get the electoral vote, then Maine would simply change their state's laws, and so the outcome is the same no matter what. And we'll bump that back there, and the 2nd district over here. So that talk has cooled, obviously, a little bit because it doesn't really matter one way or the other. You have mutually assured destruction. But let's go to the main point of the video. I've checked up some tables. So we'll look at the elections of 2016 and 2020, and how would they look if every single state in the union used this system. So we will use House elections as results for the congressional districts, and then the allotment of the 2 standard electoral votes for each state. You can see over here, start off with Alabama. The regular electoral votes is 9 for Trump. That's what the red background means. The congressional district, who they sent to the House of Representatives, they sent 6 Republicans and 1 Democrat. This would result in a loss of 1 Republican electoral vote for Trump, and so on and so forth, all the way down the line. So this is 2016. You can see all throughout the table the effects. It's big in some ways. Like Texas, you lose 11 Republican electoral votes. That gets equalized by Virginia and Washington together, also lose 11. So what that ends up with is a loss of 62 votes from Republican states and a loss of 57 votes from Democrat states. That gives us a net gain of 5 electoral votes for the Democrats, which, unfortunately for them, is not enough to change the result of the 2016 election, as that was decided by a margin of 232 for Hillary and 306 for Donald Trump. The new total would be 237 to 301, not nearly enough, as 64 electoral votes were needed. In 2020, however, we look at the same states, and due to the gains in the midterm elections and then the subsequent Republican wins in the presidential election, where they won every single toss-up state and I don't believe lost any they were defending. So, then Trump obviously lost the presidential election. Strange how those things kind of work out, isn't it? Um, but here you see Republicans would lose 46 electoral votes under this system. Democrats would lose 77. So that results in a gain of 31 electoral votes. Um, and again, the original tally was actually the inverse of the 2016 result: 306 for Biden, 232 for Trump. The switch of those 31 electoral votes gives us a tally of 275 for Biden to 263 for Trump, which is a lot closer than the 2016 result ended up being, even after we changed it around. But still, you have the same top of the ticket result. Now, it's kind of eerily similar to the popular vote in the swing states, where 40,000 votes across 3 states decided the election. But as we've said, interestingly enough, there is no change in the winner of the Electoral College. Now, I want you to keep in mind that certain voters in safe states might have stayed home, even if they do live in a competitive electoral district. Um, you can see this is the original 2024 map. This has been totally reset, and pretty much only if you live in one of these 6 swing states: Nevada, Arizona, Georgia making up the Sun Belt, and Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania making up the Rust Belt. Those are the 6 states that have the most impact on this election. Right, you hear people talk about, well, Minnesota might be in play, New Hampshire might be in play, North Carolina might be in play, Florida might be in play. If you're talking about winning either one of those, any of those states for the Republicans or the Democrats, respectively, then you've likely already won. Moving to the congressional district system, we've whipped up these 2 maps here, where in 2016 and 2020, these purple states are the ones who would have at least one electoral vote split from their original tally. So, even places like Alabama and Mississippi, seen as very deep red, would be a little bit competitive in certain areas. Or New York and New Jersey, even California, right, would contribute a significant amount of electoral votes for Republicans. Um, the map is almost identical to 2020, except Maine loses that status as it swings that purple status, and then Kansas gains it as well. Once again, here's 2016 and here's 2020. So if you lived in one of these purple areas, then your vote would again have an outsized impact, as opposed to just one of these 6 in the Rust Belt or the Sun Belt. One downside of this system, however, is that it would also promote gerrymandering even more as a way to secure electoral votes for the party's preferred candidate. You would see a heck of a lot more gerrymandering, again, even more than you already do, as then these districts would have an effect on the president, not just the state's House delegation. In an upcoming video, we're going to discuss another proposal to divide electoral votes called the proportional method, where electoral votes would be allotted by the percentage of the vote each candidate receives.